Hi, my name is Gordy Hogue, and this is Community Connection. Each of us have stories that help us understand each other and help to bring our community closer together. I have been very fortunate to have met many interesting people who have had a positive, profound impact on our community and far beyond. People who have had incredible life experiences and fascinating stories. Community Connections is about these people and about their stories. I'm sure you'll enjoy meeting these amazing people as much as I have. Thank you. Please enjoy. Welcome to Community Connections. My name is Gordy Hogue, and today's guests are committed to the development of arts and culture built on the principles of respect, creativity, and collaboration. They are pillars of our artistic community, and most particularly of Peninsula Productions, our community's professional theater. In 2018, they were recipients of the South Surrey White Rock Chamber of Commerce's Business of the Year in the not-for-profit category. Welcome, Geoff Giffin and Janet Ellis. Welcome.
Thanks, Gordy.
Great to be here.
I think what we're going to do is as the senior member, I'm going to talk about the past, and then I'll hand it off to Janet, and she can talk about what we're doing specifically during this time of COVID and what we're looking forward to in the future. And I think it's very important now that the arts, I really appreciate you doing this, Gordy, because I think if you look around what's happening around the world, the arts are suffering terribly, and something like 50 to 90% unemployment of people in the arts. And everything that we can do to help get through this and be ready to move forward in the future, I think is really important. So let me give you the history first. My personal history is a bit weird, but when you get to be old, everybody should have weird history. When I was in high school, I loved the arts, and particularly language, English. And all of my teachers told me that that's what I should focus on in my career. So being me, I studied physics and mathematics, and that worked out well. I've had a really great career in technology and computer systems. I worked for the American Space Agency, NASA, for 15 years, and it was very, very exciting. But during all of that time, there was a love of the arts, and I was a participant as mostly an audience member, but occasionally got involved. And when I moved to White Rock I grew up in England and then spent most of my working career in the US, and then was fortunate enough to marry a lovely Canadian woman, and she insisted that we move back to White Rock, which was great. And I've loved being here. I've been here for 16 years now and love it. And I started to get involved with the local theater company, the community theater company, and met my business partner, Wendy Bollard. And over a couple of years, we realized that we both had a love for theater, and particularly professional theater. And there was nothing here that supported that need. You had to go into Vancouver to get any kind of professional theater. So we ended up creating Peninsula Productions, particularly to bring extraordinary performances to the White Rock area. And we've done that very successfully, we think, over the last 10 years. Wendy stepped back a couple of years ago to pursue other interests in London and around the world, although she is back involved with us again. Over the last 10 years, we've brought a level of professionalism and quality to local theater that, as I said, we're very proud of, and we hope to continue that in the future. One of the things that we focused on was bringing theater opportunities to young people. And we remain, I think, the only organization on the peninsula that actually pays people to do theater. And we're very small. I wish we were a lot bigger, but we've been very successful over the last 5 years in attracting money from Service Canada, particularly to support youth as they develop their careers in professional theater. And we hope to continue that and expand that in the future. You mentioned respect, which was one of the driving features of our organization. It's first, our tagline is extraordinary performances, and we've always aspired to that. But the way we conduct ourselves is always with respect to the form, to the audience, to the artists, and to the places where we work. And that remains a very important focus for us. We've done lots of plays, some old saws that you have seen before. The Mousetrap was one of our, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the opening of the Mousetrap. We've done a lot of great plays, but we've also done some very edgy experimental ones that have attracted a good audience. My wife, for example, doesn't like the comedies that we do. She likes the more edgy ones, like Waiting for the Parade and Agnes of God and some other things like that we did. One of the things that we did in 2014 was we decided, as in commemoration of the 100th anniversary of the beginning of the First World War, that we would do this beautiful, beautiful play called Mary's Wedding. And we hired a young actor whose name was Harrison, and turns out that he is Janet's son. And that's how we first met Janet. And she came in and volunteered and gradually got more and more involved. And we realized that she was a resource that we could not let go. So we ended up hiring her, and she is now the executive director of Peninsula Productions. We've been going for 10 years, and we hope to go for another 10 or 20 or whatever. We're bringing in new people. And so I think, let me stop talking and pass it over to Janet, and she can say a few words about where we are now and how we're dealing with COVID and what we hope to see in the future. So over to you, Janet.
Awesome. Thanks, Geoff. And thanks for that really nice plug there. I don't really think I need to say anything, but I will, because that's my job. I think you can probably see behind me, I actually have some posters of some of our past performances. And of course, I have to give a plug to Private Peaceful, which is that side of me. I'm in the theater office right now, and perhaps at some point you might be able to hear behind me, we are actually rehearsing for Private Peaceful, which is a one-act, one-person play stage reading that we are doing this Sunday, which is going to be fantastic. Young actor Anthony Goncharov has been with us through many things, stage readings, and was in our really wonderful original musical, Sea of Stories. Anthony is the actor, and Giffin is one of our favorite directors, and he's directing that for us. So thank you, Geoff, for that great introduction. And I guess a bit about me and my history and theater. Geoff mentioned my son, Harrison, and he is probably the reason that I am here. In fact, he is the reason I'm here. But he's also the reason I got involved in theater. I grew up in a small town north of Toronto, about 45 minutes north. Lucky enough to be born into a family of 7 children. My maternal grandparents lived with us in a lovely home in a small town. But we were 45 minutes from Toronto. And at that time, there was nothing between us and Toronto. So lots of opportunity for theater and dance. And it was really quite wonderful. So I also, growing up in Kleinburg, which is the name of the town, was lucky enough to have Pierre Burton as one of our main characters, and also the Michael Art Gallery, which was the home of the group of 7. So culture started quite young. It was quite wonderful and very involved. So Harrison did get me involved in theater when he was about 7. So got involved in all the backroom stuff and the sets and props and volunteer type stuff, and continued volunteering in lots of capacities from there on. But I think probably one of the reasons that I appreciate theater so much is just the organizational aspect and how magic it is, how theater is just magic to me, how it actually happens. And I'm so lucky that I get to see everything from the auditions right through to the final product and get my hands into pretty much everything except the acting. I leave that to the professionals. So my experience in producing or my experience in organizing things came from volunteering, you like this, Gordy, with political campaigns in Ontario, everything right up to the Prime Minister tours. So that gave me a really good introduction to organizing things, and that's what I like to do. So with Peninsula, it's a great opportunity for me. They've allowed me to do all kinds of great things, organizing and producing all the plays. I took that away from Geoff when I started with Peninsula. He was doing all the producing, so I took that away from him and gave him much more important things like finding money for us. And he's been extremely successful at doing that. I was really lucky when I started with Peninsula because Geoff and Wendy had already established the company. Geoff had established community connections and Wendy had established our creative connections. So when I came in, it was like the child was already running and doing things. So it's been a pleasure to carry on. With COVID, we have carried on with what we are known for is our stage reading series, which is very popular and quite wonderful. So we've carried on with that. Wendy Mollard has given us a season, and we are limiting it to 20 tickets so that we can be COVID safe. We have all the protocols in place. People wear masks, we do temperature checks, and we make sure that everybody is social distance. So we are continuing with that as best we can. We have some other plans for the future. I think part of those will depend on funding that we have asked for from different government sources, specifically to beef up the technology in our theater. Last spring, we were lucky enough to turn our rehearsal space into a lovely little black box theater with professional lighting. Again, so lucky that we had Alan Brody, who is an amazing lighting director in Canada, spec our lights for us and help us set them up and advise us. And so we are going to continue to improve that technology so we can continue to offer our space to other organizations in the Peninsula. Again, that's community, the arts community here in White Rock and the Peninsula is very close-knit, quite wonderful, very supportive. We all help each other. So with our space, we're hoping that we will have a space for people to come in and live stream or record their performances so they don't have to worry about having people or with the social distancing. So we have a local gentleman, Dave McElroy of Playful Screen, who has offered to lend us some equipment so we can stream things and record things. And we hope to get some new equipment to do that as well so that we can continue to connect with our community through Zoom or any other platforms that everybody is using right now. But really, we are still doing our readings in-house because there's nothing better than live theater. And especially today with COVID, with the stress people are under, theater is just, it's like I said, it's magic. And you just get taken to another place, even if it's for an hour or 90 minutes or whatever it is. Live theater just lets you get out of your real life and just experience something different. So we're hoping that we can continue to offer live performances, and we will certainly continue to adapt to COVID as best we can and continue to bring some really great theater to our local community. We're pretty proud.
You were probably
over to you.
You were probably destined to come to this community because Pierre Burton's sister, Lucy Woodward, lived in the community, and so there was that connection going back to you. So it was destiny. You had no choice but
That's
to
right.
in this community and be contributing in that fashion.
Absolutely.
You've talked a little bit about the magic of theater, and for some people, I guess it's an escape, as you described it, and in many ways, it's a lesson. What do you think in terms of the role of theater in creating a sense of community and sense of connectedness? You have referred about to community connections that Geoff has been so active in. So could you each comment a little bit upon what it means in terms of social development and development of community?
Yeah, let me go first on that. One of the reasons that there's a need for theater for the arts at all levels, from community to professional, and that's true of all elements of the arts. I think we focused on theater because in the early days we also put on some amazing concerts because there wasn't much else going on in White Rock at that time. There was the George Zuckerman's White Rock concerts, of course, which was amazing, but there was a 3-year waiting list to get tickets. There was the Blues Society, and that was about it. So we put on some amazing concerts over the first 3 or 4 years of our lives. But then Blue Frog came on the scene, and Kelly has done just an amazing job of putting on concerts. So we kind of backed away from that, and we focused more and more on theater because that's where the need was. The impact on the community, it can be whatever the community makes it. And I always have a couple of examples that I put forward in what you could do. And those are Chemainus on Vancouver Island and Ashland in Oregon. And Ashland is my favorite example. In 50, 60 years ago, Ashland was a dying mill town in the middle of the forest just off of the highway. And there was no reason for it to exist anymore. And somebody came along and they said, you know what? I think we should bring theater into here. I'm sure there were lots of ups and downs, but fast forward 60 or so years, and Ashland, Oregon, COVID, who knows what's happening. But before that, they were selling 250,000 theater tickets a year. And if you can imagine how much Ashland, Oregon exists because of the arts. Chemainus largely exists because of the arts. There are little towns all over the world about the size of White Rock that exist because of the arts. I've thought about that a lot over the years, and I've always wanted to get White Rock to become a world-class arts hub. I was one of the people back in Ferguson's mayoralty who got busking restarted in White Rock. And that's one of those things. Again, you could have a world-class busking festival, and the city has taken that on and for a couple of years, and it was becoming very exciting. And who knows what the future is going to be. But the arts not only defines a community in some ways, it sustains the community, not just socially, but economically as well. There is an enormous love and need for the arts. And across the years, people have done all kinds of measuring and that is invested in the arts is returned to the community at the level of return on investment. So it's not charitable. It's a hugely important investment in the community, in the well-being of the community. So again, my personal bias, and Wendy's and Janet's, is that what we need is a professional level of the arts. There's a huge upswelling of community. One of the reasons we started the youth program, and you know this well, Gordy, you've helped us a lot, was because programs in some of the high schools here, but you graduate from high school and there's nothing. So if you want to continue a career in the arts, in theater particularly, you have to move away. And not only to Vancouver, but most people who want to have a career in theater move to Toronto or London or something like that. And I believe personally that if we could sustain a professional theater company here on the it would have huge benefits for the future of our society. So that's outlive me, is that I would like to see a 300 or 400 seat professional theatre on the peninsula. And the city of White Rock, I think, frankly, is couldn't do it on its own. Be focused on other things right now, but so I'm looking for a patron with $30 million they want to spend on the new professional theatre. So if you know anybody like that, Gordy, just bring them forward.
Okay.
So anyway, that's my take. I don't know what Janet has to say about that.
Well, I missed a whole lot of that, Geoff. Unfortunately, you were cutting out a little bit, so maybe I'll repeat some of the things you said. But I think my perspective is a little different as well, and maybe it's how I define community too, and perhaps it's the type of work that I'm doing here is a little different. But for me, the involvement in the community is in the people that are involved in the arts community here in White Rock and South Surrey. And because I'm involved in the production, because I'm involved in the theater, I'm pretty much at every production, I think, minus 2 that we've ever performed in the last 5 years as front of house. So for me, the joy is in seeing people coming to the theater and people repeatedly coming to the theater and coming to our shows. So it becomes a very personal thing for me too. We have a lot of people who come and are very loyal and come to a lot of our performances. So I get to see them a lot. And I also get to see the joy when they come in, when they leave. I get to hear the comments about our performances and how much people enjoy them. I think probably one of the main things for community was when we did our Sea of Stories several years ago. As you may recall, that was an original play written for us, an original musical by Dominic Hines. And it was the history of White Rock. So there were photos and music, and every night in the lobby, people would come out from seeing the show and tell me the stories about them and White Rock and having lived in White Rock and the history of White Rock. And people had seen photos of themselves or photos of one woman saw a photo of her husband she'd never seen before. He had passed away several years before. So for me, the community part is seeing the joy that people are getting from the performances and the live theater and the arts. And because I'm also involved in our little black box theater here and renting our theater out, I get to be involved in a lot of other arts organizations here. From music, with Nouveau Music, and with Aaron Dorfer, who is renting our space for violin lessons, and for Hilarity, who have done quite a few things in here and used our space while they were waiting for their great comedy club to start up. I've been able to be connected to the other organizations who are doing some amazing things here on the peninsula. And everyone is very supportive of everyone else and wanting to help out in any way they can. So for me, the community is the people who are involved in the arts and who want to see the arts succeed. We try to help each other with information with PACA, an organization that we have here that supports all of us, gives us information about funding. And I've been impressed with how much availability of funding there is, the opportunity to apply for funding in the arts, because as Geoff said, we believe in rewarding people for their performances. We do believe in our actors, and we know what it takes to actually put on a really good performance and how many people are involved and at what level and to make it look great. And so we really do appreciate that it's a necessary thing to have in our community. We do need support most definitely in order to carry on and to keep doing what we're doing at the level that we're doing it. So it is just extremely important, especially now with COVID and people being self-isolating. I haven't seen Geoff in person since before March, I don't think. Hey, Geoff. I mean, some people are out and about, but a lot of people are staying home, and it's really too bad. And I also work in a high school, so I see the anxiety and the stress that is causing in lots of different areas. So I think the arts right now are more important than ever to allow people to just de-stress and to find an outlet to enjoy something other than COVID, thinking about COVID. So the art community here in White Rock is quite amazing.
Yeah, we do have a plan, Gordy, for a new play at some point. It's called COVID the Musical.
I look forward to that. So you're obviously complement each other beautifully, Janet, talking about the personal connections that happen in the community, and Geoff, you giving the broader macro approach to it. So obviously together you work really well in terms of combining those visions for the future and the emotional connectedness. Is there a play that you've either put on or seen somewhere that has been most impactful for you personally?
Oh, that's a hard question. In terms of the productions that we've done over the last 10 years, I am proud of every single one of them except for one, which was at our, and by our reckoning, a bit of a disaster. Nobody knows which one it was except me. But I think the most fun for me was the 39 Steps, which is an absolute, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but basically John Buchan, who was a Brit who moved to Canada, and I think he was the Governor General or something for a while. Anyways, big deal in Canada. He wrote these terribly British spy novels in the 20s, I think. And Hitchcock put them on and made, the 39 Steps was a Hitchcock movie. It was quite brilliant. And then somebody took that movie and word for word, the script is the same, but he turned it into this hilarious comedy. And we did that. And it was absolutely brilliant. We had such superb actors, and the direction and the set, everything was, and it was just, I had a number of audience members say it was better than the show in London, which I saw twice. And so that, but the other one, the one that made me cry, and literally, which I don't do all that often, was Mary's Wedding, which is an incredibly heart-wrenching and beautiful story. And it's just the two actors that we had, Harrison was one, and Julie Sidlowska played Mary, and it was just so incredibly beautiful, and not a play that gets done all that often. But and Sea of Stories, as Janet mentioned, was amazing because we involved the community in that, and it was very, very beautiful and very, very well received. The first big production we did in the Black Box was Our Town. Yeah. And again, that was amazing. So yeah, I'm proud of them all. And you ask me about a play and I'll say, oh yeah, that was my favorite, but they're all my favorite.
Janet, has one of those plays had a particular impact on you and your life and your world?
Well, I think I've just moved my camera view so you can see all the posters behind me. I'm proud of all of the work that we have done. And I think I mentioned my role here is a little different in that I get involved right from the auditions through to the final product. And pretty much 100% when we start rehearsing and I see the rehearsals, I'm thinking, oh my God, how is this ever going to come together? And I've worked with such amazing directors. Mandy Ballard specifically is just a master at what she does. And so seeing things progress through to the final product, I get a chance to meet all the actors and all the people who were involved in the theater and involved in the play. So it's really hard for me to pick one that I really loved. Of course, Mary's Wedding was the first one I saw with Peninsula in a tiny little black box in White Rock Elementary School. And I hadn't been there, and I had no idea what to expect. 2 actors, a really tiny little set. And again, like Geoff, I think I cried every night. Even though I knew what was going to happen, I still cried every night. It was just beautiful. And then we went on to do a whole bunch of others. And what happens is in our community, we have a lot of actors who come back. So we get to use a lot of the same actors for our plays, and it becomes a bit of a community, which is quite wonderful. And then we get to see them do other things. I think Belfast Girls was really hard hitting. It was a beautiful play. First time it was performed in Canada. And we had some amazing actors do that. The sets were phenomenal. Greg Cook, who is our new president of the board, he is trying to fill Geoff's shoes and doing an amazing job. He did our sets for us. And it was the first time we did a play here in White Rock. And then we took it to the Cultch in Vancouver for a week with a totally different type of black box. So it was, for me, really a hard-hitting, beautiful play, well acted. We got to do it in 2 different venues. And I think for me, it's always the art of possibility. I'm always astounded at how things turn out and how wonderful they are. And the acting is amazing and how hard people work. So I think for me, every play we do just makes me realize how great theater is and how much work goes into it. And I am probably emotional. I'm tearing up right now. I get emotional around pretty much everything we do. And the type of things we do, as Geoff said, 39 Steps was a comedy. It was just hilarious, so funny and so well acted and so well directed. The sets were amazing. Our Town, again, first one in this little black box. I had no idea how it was going to work. And as a producer and responsible for the theater and our actors and performers, we had people going in and out doors and around and back and forth. And I was just nervous the whole time because I was more worried about people than the particulars, but the actual play and the performance was just phenomenal in this tiny little space. So the possibilities just inspire me. Everything we do inspires me. So I can't pick just one.
So given what's happening in our world today and the challenges that we're seeing out there and the issues that you talk about in terms of respect and creativity and collaboration are something which are needed universally these days. And certainly the little bit of that you bring to our community and strengthen those values, I think are important to be carried beyond that. So we're almost out of time. Do you have any sort of closing comments that you'd like to make for any of our watchers and listeners? Yeah, Geoff?
No, I think we've, as Janet has said, we've done quite well in attracting funding. We're very proud of the fact that have gotten funding for several years in a row from Service Canada to support our youth program. And I think we've had young people, we've changed their lives because they didn't realize until they worked for us for the summer that it was actually possible for them to make a living doing this work that they loved. And several of them have gone on to careers or to advanced education in theater and careers. And so we do actually change lives. And I totally agree with what Janet said about the community. We aspire to sit at the top of this hierarchy of quality of theater and the performing arts, but we're very cognizant of the fact that we are part of a community, and one of the important things about us is that all of our auditions are open. So we bring in professionals and community actors and people that, as Janet said, we've worked with before. And we have the flexibility because we pay people to bring in the very best that we can find. And that has informed the work that we do to a very large extent. And we've had some amazing combinations of professional and community actors that have just done incredible work together. But we also, as Janet said, rely a lot on the volunteers and the goodwill of the community. So we just appreciate that so much, and we recognize our responsibility to do that, to meet those expectations.
Janet, do you have any comments that you'd like to make here?
I think I would just like to say thank you to all of the people who are continuing to support us and coming out. Our last stage reading with Warren Kimmel, Shylock, was a one-man show. 2 performances were sold out, and I was just thrilled to see people back in our theater. And thank you to you, Gordy, for always supporting us. Our summer program has been phenomenal. We've really enjoyed working with a lot of people, and you and Deborah were fantastic in that and stick handling that through for us. So appreciate all your help on that. And just to say yes, just be positive and optimistic. I think we all need to respect each other's views on COVID. Some people are more comfortable than others about getting out in public and doing things. And I think we all need to respect how people feel about COVID and social distancing, and allow people to come back into the environments that they're comfortable with. So we are hoping that people will come out and still enjoy theater when we can do it. And that hopefully we will come up with some online things and maybe some streaming, maybe some recording, and just stay connected to our audience that has been around for us. So I think we will all carry on if we all support each other and help each other. Yeah, certainly in this community, we tend to do that. So yes, I think we should all just be positive, help one another, and we're just going to carry on best we can.
What a great message for our community and for our world. Thank you so much, Janet and Geoff, and thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you for Peninsula Productions and all the contributions it makes to our community. It's wonderful. Thanks so very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us today on Community Connections. Please tune in to our next show as more amazing people share their wonderful stories. If you haven't already, please click on the red subscribe button below, right down there, and view our updates. Feel free to leave any thoughts or comments that you may have. We're always trying to do a better job of connecting this wonderful community. Thanks again for joining, and until next time, keep connecting. Thank you.